Hi folks, I've got a shorter video today to check out the final Environmental Impact Report, or FEIR, of the South Bay K Line extension to Torrance. Originally, when this project was conceived, it was part of the Green Sea Line, which is why you still see that nomenclature on documents, but it will be served by the Pink K Line. Now, draft EIRs tend to be very illuminating documents where we see ridership projections, detailed engineering drawings, and so much more for the first time, after which the Metro Board votes on which alternative to select for the project, known as an LPA. FEIRs, by and large, tend not to offer as much new information unless the Metro Board has chosen to significantly alter the project in the interim. Here, thankfully, they did not. In my view, they're moving forward with the best possible option for the project, and if you want to give your input to ensure the board approves this, the board is going to meet at Metro HQ adjacent to Union Station this fall. There's not a confirmed date they're voting on this yet, but tentatively we're planning on October 23rd at 10 a.m. Torrance Transit will be offering free bus rides from the Torrance Transit Center that morning, and you can find more details in this link, which will also be updated if the meeting time and date changes. So let's take a look at the selected alternative, the pushback it's gotten from one group of locals, and Metro's thorough work to win those locals over. Now, the project area encompasses the wide Harbor Subdivision rail right-of-way, which Metro purchased in 1993 and which still runs occasional freight trains, from the current end of the K Line at Marine to the Torrance Transit Center at Crenshaw, with only 2 total stations as Lawndale opted out of a station within their city limits. Metro's purchase of the Harbor Sub over 30 years ago gave them control of a right-of-way that can eventually get trains all the way to Long Beach without virtually any tunneling or other right-of-way acquisition. And Metro has multiple times stated that the long-term intention is to extend this line that far, eventually forming a critical backbone through the South Bay. The K Line will of course also be extended north to Hollywood, which we've discussed many times on this channel, so folks in the South Bay could eventually get a train taking them from Hollywood, maybe even the Bull, to Long Beach, to say nothing of the new LAX connection, which will, at some point, actually connect to the People Mover, the connecting shuttles to the Inglewood stadiums, and they'd be able to get to Santa Monica, downtown LA, or other parts of the region with just a single transfer. On this southern part of the Endgame line, however, Measure M funding only provides for the extension to Torrance. So, the original options for this project were a partially at-grade alignment on the right-of-way, a trenched alignment on the right-of-way, or an elevated alignment that leaves the right-of-way for Hawthorne and places the first station at, instead of the Redondo Beach Transit Center, the middle of a 6 to 8 lane highway on Hawthorne Boulevard next to the South Bay Galleria. Now, an alignment with grade crossings is pretty much always the cheapest, but back when this was the C line, it would have added the only grade crossings on the entire otherwise grade-separated line. While the K Line does have grade crossings, those are only between Hyde Park and LAX, and keeping the line fully grade separated south of there leads to better operations and speed. So, Metro added a new option, the hybrid, which fully grade separated the right-of-way alignment while coming in way cheaper than the trenched option. The whole point of purchasing the Harbor Sub was to be able to serve this area as affordably as possible, and while Metro will, as always, need to augment the Measure M funds with other funding sources, the gap here is not nearly as steep as it would have been with the Hawthorne alignment, which was so steep that it seriously endangered the project happening at all, and thus pretty much would nix the dream of this line extending further to Long Beach in our lifetimes. And irrespective of the funding issue, the Hawthorne alignment also requires coordination with Caltrans, which has often turned out to be, pun mildly intended, the third rail, or overhead wires in this case, of getting metro projects off the ground, as Caltrans is insanely difficult to work with and tends to require quite expensive mitigation measures to run in their right-of-way, in this case briefly beside the 405 and on Hawthorne Boulevard itself. Plus, on the utilities front, it requires a major storm drain relocation under Hawthorne, and the raising of high-voltage transmission lines across the corridor even higher. These challenges would have added more time to the project and delayed an opening by 2 to 4 years, all to place a station here instead of here, which, in the last analysis I could find, would result in a whopping 300 extra daily boardings. Yeah, for $730 million more, that does not make sense. So, why are some residents really fighting this? Well, it's largely some folks whose houses are adjacent to the right-of-way. There's been a lot of fear and frankly misinformation spreading in the community about what light rail along this right-of-way actually means. But the reality is that the K-line will actually make this right-of-way much safer and quieter. There's significant safety improvements planned for the freight track, like bringing pedestrian crossings up to modern standards. There's quiet zone improvements so the freight train doesn't have to blast its horns, and the electric light rail trains are extremely quiet. There's a beautiful neighborhood walking and biking trail getting added, which can connect to existing and planned bike routes. And they're getting a fully grade-separated line, which much denser areas of LA have failed to achieve. Concerns about safety are absolutely unwarranted. This is being built to very high standards with very experienced engineers and will make the area safer than it currently is for pedestrians, drivers, bikers, and transit riders. But Metro still has to certify the EIR and approve the project for it to move forward, which is not guaranteed. So we need everyone's help to fight for this final push. If you're in the South Bay or would benefit from this extension in any way, please plan to attend the October 23rd meeting. Again, Torrance Transit is offering free bus rides, and you can sign up to be part of the South Bay On Board coalition that's been fighting for the project. The loudest anti-Metro voices from the South Bay could cause Metro to further delay, and every single time they've delayed, the project has gotten more expensive. And if we're going to build this piece of what will one day be this full line, we need to act while we can still afford to build it. Worst case, Metro throws their hands up and kiboshes the whole thing, and if it's gone, it's gone. And the immense work it's taken to get here will be wasted. And you can kiss not only this section, but the full line goodbye. We can't ice out the South Bay from getting rail within our lifetimes. This should be the last push the project needs to get over the hump, so if you can make it, especially if this project affects you, please show your support on the 23rd. You can also send in comments to show your support to Metro's email address for the project, seen here and listed below in the description. Also, if you want to stay apprised of issues like this, where there's an opportunity for public comment, local activists have put together an email list called People First California, where you can sign up with this link for updates on local projects. I can't make a video on everything, and this will help us counter the NIMBY voices too often prioritized in local government affairs. Finally, this video's in lieu of a Patreon. Here's a great local organization to support. LA Taco. Yes, it's not a charity, it's actually a news org that started as a food blog, but now publishes some of the best local journalism in Los Angeles, particularly on the subject of the ice raids. You may be aware that one contributing element to the horrors is that legacy media outlets like the LA Times are largely coming under the control of billionaires using these outlets to explicitly push far-right agendas. And the changing face of media has made quality, consistent local journalism a vanishingly rare thing. That's why it's so important that people support local outlets like LA Taco so we can get reliable reporting on important issues that aren't tinted through the lens of whatever this asshole wants you to think. I'm a member, and you should be too. Until next time.